My wife told me she needed time to find herself. What she really meant was she was leaving me for her rich, married boss. I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the expensive new clothes, the way she talked about him like he was some kind of savior, while I was just dead weight. Still, I trusted her. I blamed myself. Thought maybe I wasn't successful enough, not exciting enough. Not enough, but when I found her suitcases packed and hidden in the guest room, I knew. She was planning to leave the next day without a word, without a second thought. That should have been the end. But then I got an email, just one line from his wife. I think we should talk. What she showed me changed everything. And when Natalie came back to take her bags, she found something she never expected. I wasn't broken. I wasn't begging. I was ready. If you've ever been betrayed by the one person you thought would never lie to you, leave a comment below. What would you have done? Tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge. With Chris, new stories every single day. My name is Alexander Foster, but most people just call me Alex. I'm 33, a software developer from Seattle. Nothing flashy. I work remotely. I like craft coffee, vintage video games, and I've always preferred peace over drama. For most of my adult life, I thought I was living the dream. I had a stable job, a cozy little house we'd bought after our wedding, and a wife I adored, Natalie. We met at a friend's party 7 years ago. She was magnetic, bright, ambitious, the kind of person who lit up any room she walked into. I was quieter, the guy behind the screen. But she liked that about me, or at least she used to. We built a life together from scratch. Our first year of marriage wasn't easy. Money was tight, rent was high, and I was juggling freelance gigs just to stay afloat. But Natalie stood by me. She believed in me. At least that's what I thought. Things changed when she got her job at a tech startup downtown. She was hired as an executive assistant to Richard Langston, the CEO. The guy was sharp, charming, loaded, and from what I could tell, he knew it. At first, I was proud of her. It was a big deal. She started dressing more professionally, coming home with stories about pitch meetings, product launches, investor parties. I cheered her on. That's what partners do, but somewhere along the way, the tone shifted. She started coming home later, said Richard needed her to stay for last-minute deck revisions or late dinners with clients. Some nights she barely touched the food I made. She began critiquing our house, the furniture, the kitchen, even the way I dressed. You should really consider upgrading your wardrobe, she told me once, eyeing my hoodie like it personally offended her. I laughed it off. I figured she was just adapting to her new world, that maybe I needed to catch up. But then came the perfume I didn't recognize. The new designer handbag she never used to care about. And her phone always face down, always locked. Still, I told myself I was overthinking it. I've never been the jealous type. I've always believed in giving space, trusting people to be who they say they are. But trusting Natalie was starting to feel like hugging a ghost. She was right there living in the same house. But emotionally, she was miles away. When I brought it up, told her I missed us, she didn't reassure me. She didn't cry or hold me or even argue. She just stared at me and said, Alex, not everything is about you. Maybe you should focus on your own growth for once. That hit me harder than I expected. I spent the next few weeks in my own head wondering if she was right. Maybe I had gotten lazy. Maybe I'd lost the spark that made her fall for me. So I tried. I worked out more, shaved every morning, started dressing better, even downloaded a productivity app I found on one of those self-improvement podcasts, but nothing changed. Natalie only grew colder. Sharper, like being near me was an obligation she had to endure. The tipping point came one Sunday night. She said she was going on a business retreat in Napa Valley, a wellness weekend for the executive team. She packed in a hurry, barely looked at me as she left. That night I sat on the edge of our bed staring at the empty closet space where her dresses usually hung, and something in me cracked. This wasn't just distance. This was a withdrawal. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have proof. Not yet. The first red flag wasn't the perfume or the clothes. It was the hotel receipt. I wasn't snooping. I was just paying off our monthly credit card bill when I saw the charge 2 nights at a boutique resort in Napa on the same weekend. Natalie claimed she was at a corporate wellness retreat. At first, I told myself maybe the company booked it. Maybe it was legit, but something didn't sit right. So I checked our statements again, line by line. And that's when I saw the others: dinner at a five-star French restaurant in Bellevue, a spa package at a resort in Whistler, 2 plane tickets to San Diego, booked in her name, all charged to our joint account. All during work trips. I didn't want to believe it. My stomach was in knots, my hands shaking. I waited until she got home that Sunday night, later than she said she'd be. Her hair was perfect. Her nails were freshly done. She smelled like a hotel lobby in Champagne. I asked her how the retreat was. She barely looked up from her phone. Fine, she said. So I asked her if she went alone. That made her pause. What's that supposed to mean? I told her I saw the charges, the dinners, the resort. And just like that, she snapped, "Are you checking up on me now? Are you seriously tracking my spending like I'm a child?" No, I said, trying to stay calm. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. She rolled her eyes. What's going on is that I work for a high-level executive team, Alex. We entertain clients, we network. Sorry if that's too much for your suburban mindset to handle. It was like a punch to the gut. She wasn't denying it. She was just shifting the blame, making it about my supposed insecurities. You're paranoid, she said. You've always been threatened by my success. That night she slept in the guest room. The next few days were quiet, cold. She barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was clipped and transactional, like we were business partners, not spouses. She left early, came home late, always on her phone, always tired, but the biggest shift, she stopped wearing her wedding ring. She said it was getting too tight, said she'd get it resized soon. She never did. I tried one last time to reach her, told her I missed us. Told her I didn't care about the clothes or the dinners or the boss. I just wanted to understand what we'd become. She looked at me like I was speaking a language she didn't recognize. I don't know what you want from me anymore, she said. Maybe we've just outgrown each other. That's when I knew this wasn't about growth. This was about escape. Natalie had one foot out the door, and I was the last to realize it. But fate has a strange way of showing up when you're at your lowest. Because just 2 days later, I was looking for a spare phone charger in the guest room closet. And that's when I found them. 2 suitcases, fully packed, hidden behind an old comforter. I stared at them for what felt like forever. Neatly folded dresses, new shoes, a passport tucked into a travel wallet. No note, no explanation. She wasn't planning to break this to me gently. She was planning to vanish. And the worst part, I probably would have let her. I would have stood there hurt and hollow, watching the love of my life walk out that door like I never mattered. But the universe wasn't done with me yet, because the next morning I woke up to an email from someone I didn't know, someone with the same last name as Natalie's boss. Just 4 words in the subject line. I think we should talk. I must have read that email 5 times before I moved. It was short. No punctuation, no pleasantries, just, I think we should talk. It came from a woman named Katherine Langston, the wife of Richard Langston. Natalie's boss, I replied with a single line, name the place. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground, bright lighting public enough in case things went sideways. When I walked in, I spotted her instantly, mid-40s, sharp suit, polished, confident, but with tired eyes. The kind of tired that only comes from years of smiling through betrayal. She didn't waste time. I'm not here to make this harder for you, she said, but you deserve the truth. Then she slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, Natalie and Richard, holding hands outside a hotel, kissing in the back of a black SUV, sharing a bottle of wine at a beach resort I recognized from our credit card statement. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was fact. I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking as I flipped through the images, but Katherine wasn't finished. I've known about them for a while, she said. Richard's predictable. Natalie's the third assistant he's done this with. He finds someone young, eager, willing to believe he'll leave me. And once they're fully detached from their old life, he drops them. Every time she said it so calmly, like she was reciting a recipe. I asked her why she was telling me this. Katherine took a sip of her coffee, then looked me straight in the eye. Because I'm not divorcing him, she said. We have 3 kids. Our finances are deeply intertwined, and frankly, I've already outgrown the fantasy of getting even. But that doesn't mean he gets to keep playing. I didn't understand. I want you to ruin his pattern, she said. Cut it off before it ends the way it always does. He's not going to leave me. He never intended to. And Natalie. She's just the next name in a long, pathetic list. Then she pulled out a flash drive. Everything's here, she said. Recordings, text backups. One voicemail in particular you're going to want to hear. He tells a friend on speaker that he's never leaving me. Calls your wife a temporary distraction. His words, not mine. I sat there frozen. My heart was breaking, but a different part of me. Some core that had been asleep for months was waking up. Why help me? I asked Katherine, didn't blink. Because you still have a chance to walk away with your dignity. Most of them don't. I've watched this play out too many times, Alex. He breaks them. I'm giving you a head start. I left that coffee shop numb. Not angry, not heartbroken, just awake. That night I didn't say anything to Natalie. She went about her evening like everything was normal. Still cold, still distant, still wearing clothes I didn't recognize. She kissed me on the cheek like a stranger and went straight to the guest room. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the flash drive plugged into my laptop, listening to every word, every disgusting promise Richard had made to her, and every cruel truth he'd said behind her back. Natalie thought she was running towards something real, but she was walking into a trap, and tomorrow morning she planned to leave me for it. But I had a different plan. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed up planning how to end it on my terms. Not with a fight, not with tears. Not with begging, but with truth, clean, sharp, unavoidable. By sunrise, I'd gone through every file Katherine gave me. I copied the most damning parts onto a separate flash drive, photos, emails, and 3 voice recordings. One of those recordings still rings in my head. Richard laughing with a friend saying, "She's cute, but she's just something to do until things settle down at home." He was talking about my wife. I queued that one up for last. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want revenge in the dramatic movie-style way. I just wanted her to see exactly what she was walking into. At 8:12 a.m., I heard the garage door. Natalie was back. She walked in like she didn't owe me a thing. Her hair was perfect. Her suitcase wheels clicked across the tile. She looked surprised to see me sitting at the kitchen table. "Morning," she said cautiously, scanning me like I might explode. I didn't. I just gestured to the chair across from me. She hesitated. "Alex, I told you I just need space. I'm not trying to hurt you." I slid the flash drive across the table. "Just watch." She looked at it like it might bite her. "What is this?" Something from Katherine Langston. That got her attention. Her jaw clenched. "You talked to her?" "No," I said. "She talked to me." I opened my laptop and hit play. First a video. Low res taken from a distance. Richard and Natalie outside a hotel, his hand on the small of her back. Then them laughing, holding hands. Then the kiss. She looked away. I made her look back. Next a screenshot of a text. "You know I can't leave her yet. Be patient. You're different. You're special." The date was 2 months ago. Natalie's eyes darted. "This isn't what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like." I said, voice steady. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You didn't even plan to say goodbye," I reminded her. Silence. Then I played the voicemail. Richard's voice. "She's got stars in her eyes, man. I told her whatever she needed to hear. Let her leave her husband hell. I even said I loved her. But come on, I've got a life, a real one. She's just a vacation." I stopped it, halfway. Natalie was pale. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but no sound came out. She looked small. "Deflated, I was going to tell you," she said finally. "No, you weren't," I replied. "You were going to vanish." I stood up, walked to the guest room, and wheeled her suitcases into the hallway. "You still can. I'm not stopping you." She stared at the bags, then at me. "Where will you go?" I asked. "Because he's not taking you in. He's done with you." Katherine made sure of that. She tried to cry, tried to reach for my hand. I didn't move. There were no more words. I held the door open. She walked through it, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. Not because I wanted this, but because I knew I deserved better than being someone's backup plan. Natalie didn't call for 3 days. Not a text, not an apology, not even a shallow excuse. I figured she was waiting for Richard to come through with a safety net, but she'd learned like the others before her that he never built one. On day 4, she called, I let it ring. She tried again and again. I finally picked up on the 5th call. Not to talk, but to listen. Her voice was a wreck. Alec, please. I didn't know. He told me things. He said we were building something real. I didn't say a word. He won't answer my messages. He's ignoring me at the office. People are whispering. I think Katherine leaked something. I kept my silence. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Can I come home? That word home hit like a dull knife. I could have said yes, could have taken her back, could have gone through the cycle of fake forgiveness and quiet resentment like so many do. But I wasn't that man anymore. There's nothing here for you now. Natalie, I said, you packed that away the day you chose him. I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. A week later, I heard through a mutual friend that Natalie had been reassigned to a different department. Something quiet, low-profile Richard. He was still CEO, still smiling for interviews, still pretending like nothing had happened. But I knew better. Katherine had warned me this would happen, that men like him don't face consequences, not the kind you see in court or headlines, but they face decay, in silence, over time. And sure enough, the cracks started showing. Shareholder complaints, HR audits, whispers of inappropriate conduct making their way into Slack channels. Katherine didn't burn his life down. She just left enough gasoline for it to slowly smother itself. And me, I started clearing the house. Literally and metaphorically, I sold our couch, boxed up old photos, donated half my wardrobe. I kept only what was mine and meaningful. Then I listed the house. It sold in 3 weeks. With the money, I took a risk I'd been sitting on for years. I started building a game. Not for money, not for revenge, just for me. It was simple, story-driven, a quiet narrative about rebuilding after betrayal. I posted about it on a small developer forum. Didn't expect much, but something about it resonated. People started commenting, then downloading streamers picked it up, called it surprisingly emotional and deeply human. Within 6 months, it was my full-time job. Not rich, not famous, but enough and free, completely, utterly free. One night, I checked my old email account out of curiosity. There was a message from someone named Emily, a QA tester from one of the forums. She wrote, "Your game made me cry." Not in a bad way, just, "Thank you." We started talking, then calling, then flying to meet. Turns out you don't have to bleed to love someone. Sometimes you just need to be seen. Emily never asked about Natalie. She didn't need to. She saw me as I was, not who I was trying to be for someone else. And in that quiet, honest space, I healed. It's been over a year now. I live in a different city, in a small but bright apartment filled with books, music, and plants. I've somehow managed to keep alive. I still code, still create, still make games. But I also cook more. I laugh more. I sleep better. Natalie, she's just a name in a story I no longer tell unless someone asks. And even then, I don't speak with bitterness. Because what happened wasn't just betrayal, it was clarity. It was the painful, violent tearing away of illusion. And underneath that wreckage was me, the real me. Not the man I became trying to make someone stay. Not the version of myself I shrank into so I wouldn't scare her away. Just me, simple, steady enough. You know when someone leaves you for a fantasy, especially a shiny, wealthy, powerful fantasy, you start to question your own worth. But here's what I've learned. The people who truly love you won't ask you to upgrade your soul to meet their ambitions. They won't leave you in the dark and call it growth. And they damn sure won't pack a suitcase behind your back while kissing you goodnight. Sometimes the most dignified thing you can do is open the door and let them walk out. Then close it behind them and rebuild. Not out of revenge, but out of respect for yourself. What did you think of this story? If you were in my shoes, how would you have handled it? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you think I made the right choice, vote. Team Alex, if not, vote. Team Natalie, I'm curious to see. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenge with Chris so you never miss a powerful new karma story every single day.